What up, boys? We got a different style of video today. I wanted to go over unlocking daily productivity by adjusting when you're going to the gym. I was thinking about this today. I was in Starbucks doing my deep work session between like 7 a.m. and noon, and I was thinking about, okay, I'm going to the gym at 1:30 today, um, and the thought just kind of popped in my head, like, what different times have I gone to the gym, and why is it actually an important factor to know when the most optimal time to go to the gym is, depending on what your goal is, depending on what your schedule is. I think just knowing the factors and knowing based on what you're trying to do when the best time to go is in order to unlock productivity, unlock the most optimal growth, etc. I think it's just a good thing to know. So I kind of want to go through my story, go through the different times that I've been going to the gym throughout my lifetime and tell you the pros and cons to when the different times to go, and then I'll give you guys a few different situations and a few different scenarios and kind of depict what the best time to go is based on those scenarios. So we'll get into it here, but right here I got what I've done for gym times and my ups and downs of those experiences. So as you guys know, if you've seen my story, I started back in junior year. So I would go late night usually because I would have basketball practice or football practice or whatever. So I would start. I was starting by going late at night after basketball practice, and then once basketball ended, I had a couple months where I went early morning, and I still didn't really know what I was doing yet, but I wanted to try early morning because winter arc. I saw all this other stuff, and I wanted to try the early morning. And the thing about these, like the junior year, I was still figuring things out, so neither of them really mattered. I definitely saw more progress when I was going late night. Early mornings, it was more like I didn't have the habits or the diet to complement going early morning, so it was kind of a I don't want to say a waste of time because I learned, but going late night was definitely better when I had meals in me. I was more excited to go because it was after school. I had something to look forward to, but I would kind of discard junior year. And then in terms of high school, um, this was my senior year. I was always going late night. So if you look at my senior year, I was going I would go after football practice, 4, 5, 6 times a week. And then when basketball came around, I would go after basketball practice or after basketball games. And then even after that, after school, I wouldn't go right after school. I would wait. I'd eat a meal. I would, I forget what I would do in between, 3 and 5 ish, but I would go around 6 ish, go for like 2, 3 hours, and then I'd have my meal after that. So I was going late night a lot my senior year. My senior year summer, so going into my freshman year at college, I was going a lot midday. Um, I think that was just, I don't know why. I think that was just more like I would wake up around 9, 10 a.m. I didn't have good habits yet. And whenever I'd wake up, the number one thing I'd be looking forward to was going to the gym. So I'd be going midday, and I would go from probably around 11 to 1 ish. And then once I got to Endicott, which is my freshman year of college, I was going late night again. I had classes. I was eating my meals. I was getting everything else done. I would go to the gym around 4, 5 ish until 6, 7 ish. I'd come back. I'd play 2K with my boy Troy, and we'd kick it. But that was what I did at Endicott. And then my freshman year summer, I was kind of all over the place. This was the summer that my brother passed away. This is the biggest turning point in my life, and I was kind of just my gears were always churning, and I was just trying to make sure I was getting in there. I didn't really have a schedule. And then as the summer went on, late July, late August, I found another late night groove where I was going, that 5, 6, 7, 8 range, and I was getting locked back in. That's when I started to really make the commitment to myself after my brother passed. And then we fast forward to UMass, my sophomore year of college, and late night again. This was like a massive bulk. So I entered UMass at around 2:05, and I left my first semester at UMass at like 2:30. Crazy bulk. I was eating a ridiculous amount of calories a day. I wasn't tracking, which fucked me. Track your calories. But I was going late night to make sure I had the most optimal strength. And this was definitely when I was the strongest, about, December of, what would that be? 2023. And then fast forward to student painters, which for those of you who don't know, I did an internship where basically you get to run your own business, and I was working 14, 15, 16-hour days during the summer, and that was when I was always going late night. So I'd get up around 5:30 ish. I'd work until around 8:30 ish. I'd go to the gym at 9, close at 10. It'd be like an hour. So that was more late night. And then you fast forward to winter of 2024. So this past winter again, it was late night. So as you can tell, I've really been a late night guy. But currently, I've been doing the fasted morning cardio. If you guys are watching my stories, you know that. And I've been doing the midday lifts as well. So the biggest takeaway I want to say from this is because I think the biggest reason I can make this video now is because I've been doing the midday lifts for a little while now, and I've felt different energy points. I've felt my different peaks, and overall, I feel like I've done it all. I don't have too much experience with early morning, but I have enough to know kind of how it feels. Most of my experience has been late night. I've had some middays in there as well, but the most important thing to understand is that everyone has different schedules, okay? But there is the best time for you to train. Depending on your lifestyle, depending on your circadian rhythm, which is basically just your body's internal clock. Some people peak in the morning, some peak in the afternoon, some people peak in the evening or at night. And those are things that you have to figure out for yourself. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. You need to find out after going to the gym for a certain amount of time when you peak at the gym, when you have the most energy, when you're the strongest, all that good stuff. And then you can kind of decipher. So other factors you can consider when figuring out, how to unlock your productivity is, what are your work hours? Are you working a 9 to 5? Are you an entrepreneur that works, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and you kind of just got to figure out, can you go in the middle of those hours? Should you go after? Are you working a early morning construction job where you're there 5 to 1 p.m. and you have to kind of drag out a midday to late night lift? What are your work hours? And depending on what your work hours are, when is your peak in energy? When you're not in work. Okay, that's the number one thing to consider. When is your peak energy? Use that on the gym, because once you use that on the gym, you're going to be able to use that for after the gym to build momentum. Okay, and then when do you need to be the most productive and high alert? So I say this for me too, because for example, my schedule now, I peak in the morning and I peak at night. In my opinion, I have two different peaks. The midday really sucks for me, but that's why I go to the gym midday. Okay, that's why I do it, because if I can get my gym session in midday, that means I automatically know I'm going to build momentum. So I go midday, even though it sucks, so I can have a great late night work period. Okay, so when do you want to be the most productive, high alert? Go to the gym so that after that you can be your most productive and your most high alert. All right? And then when do you want to have the most energy? Again, I've been doing this for so long that I have my most energy after I go because I'm manipulating my lifts. But if you're someone that gets tired right after the gym, you're going to have to figure that out too. But if this is a priority to you, then go when you have the most energy. If you've already built a habit and you know how to manipulate your lifts to get more energy afterwards, then go. You'll build more energy for afterwards, and you'll be able to build momentum for after the lift. Okay. When do you have the most energy currently, like we talked about before? And then would you rather build your largest chunk of momentum early in the day, middle of the day, or before bed? It's really up to you. Depending on your work schedule, depending on what your circumstances are, when do you want to build the biggest chunk of momentum? So, for example, my gym time right now, like I said, middle of the day, okay? I peak in the morning, I peak at night, like I said. Getting the gym midday is a drag for me, but I built a habit and I know I'll feel better after, which gives crazy momentum going into my evening work block, okay? Like I said, gives crazy momentum so I can get a shit ton done in my, evening work block, which is actually right now. It's 6:55. If this is a priority for you and the habit isn't built, monitor your energy and notice when you peak and schedule to go at that time. You'll notice that you can build momentum going into your next block of time by building this habit. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. I know I'm repetitive, but as long as you're building the habit, once you build the habit, you're going to get more energy after going to the gym. Okay? So planning for optimal growth. All right, so if your main goal is to put on muscle, I suggest getting your meals in before you go, because if you're getting your meals in before you go, you're building more energy, you have more food inside your body, and your testosterone peaks later at night. So that's better for heavy lifting, better for strength, better for PRs, all that good stuff. So if you can go later in the day, that's better for building muscle and building strength. If your goal is to lose fat, doing it fast in the morning is definitely not a bad idea, but getting in meals is okay as well, as long as you're staying in a calorie deficit. Okay? Also, cortisol spikes early, and cortisol is basically just the hormone your body releases in the morning when you wake up, and it sharpens your focus. It helps you handle stress. It spikes energy, and that's why a lot of people train early, because it spikes within 30 to 45 minutes of when you wake up. Okay. And one thing to note as well is that when you train early in the morning, right when you wake up, that's when you're your weakest. So just keep that in mind as well. If you're trying to do both, all right, and as you guys know, I love morning fasted cardio. I mean, I don't love it, but I think it's really good for you. But I also do another weightlifting session with that, as you guys also know. But if this doesn't fit your schedule, that's fine. I would suggest later in the day, because you still want to make sure that your lifts are really good and you have high energy. So you want to make sure you're getting meals in. You want to make sure you're still building strength while you're also losing that fat in a calorie deficit. So high protein. Optimize your carbs, an hour to an hour and a half before, you lift. So if you're lifting at 4 p.m., make sure you're getting those carbs in at 2:30 so you can use those carbs in that lift to have more energy, have more focus. And that's how you're going to want to do it if you're trying to do both. And then test different times and see how your days unravel. So try, if you work, say for example, you work a 9 to 5, try going at 6 a.m. See how it goes. See if that makes you better in your job. Okay. If not, try maybe a 6:30 a.m. cardio shift where you do 25 minutes of cardio and then see how you work. And then maybe trying to go to the gym afterwards too. You're going to see crazy growth if you do both of those. All right. Or, wake up, go through your morning routine, get your habits in, go to your 9 to 5, and then maybe you go after because you're trying to, gain muscle. And maybe it's momentum for you. Maybe it's something to look forward to after your job. Okay. Test different times, see what works for you. Like I said, this is not a one size fits all approach. You need to see how your energy is, okay? I suggest going around the same time every day so your body gets used to it and understands the mental state you need to go to do this properly, okay? So go for a week in the morning. Go for a week midday. Go for a week at night as long as your schedule allows it. So don't go, in the morning. Don't go at 6 a.m. one day if you're working 9 to 5 and then 8 p.m. the next day and then 6 a.m. after that because you're not going to build momentum. Your body's not going to know when it's time for the gym. Okay, and I always see this when I start to struggle with my lifts. It's usually because I'm going at different times. I'm going at 6 a.m. I'm going at 8 p.m. I'm going at 2 p.m. I'm going at so many different times that my body doesn't have time to adjust to the new times that I'm going. So pick a time, do it for a week, see how it goes, see if you feel great. Try it another way for the next week, and just again, like I said, kind of going off what I said here, test different times to see how your days unravel, but make sure that you're able to go for a long enough time while also building momentum, okay? And then, this is one I always talk about no matter what it is. Prep at the beginning of the week, okay? Keep your quantitative goal at the forefront of your mind. This is important because, like I said, there's better times for building muscle, there's better times for losing fat, and there's better times for if you're trying to build muscle and lose fat, okay? Keep your quantitative goal in your mind that you wrote down, that you said, I want to gain this much muscle in this time frame. Okay, keep that in your mind. All right, know your non-negotiables. You have to work. You need 7-8 hours of sleep. You need to be eating, and whatever your other non-negotiables are. If your fucking non-negotiables is binging Netflix and watching porn and eating junk food, then I can't help you. But you may have to cut some of them out. If you want to optimize your schedule and make this a priority in your life, you're gonna have to be okay with cutting out some of your other habits that may be non-negotiables for you right now, okay? Then plan an hour and a half to 2 hours to meal plan your lunch and your dinners for the week. The best day to do this is Sunday, okay? Because Sunday is the start to your week. You'll see me say that a lot. If Sunday is the beginning of your week, if you meal plan on Sunday and you get everything ready on Sunday, you're bound to have a good week. Bound to have a good week because you have your food for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And if you have your good food, that means you're probably going to go to the gym. That means you're probably going to have a better day at work. That means you're probably going to have a better week at work. You're probably going to sleep better. It's all a compounding effect of momentum, okay? So give yourself an hour and a half to 2 hours. Schedule it on the weekend to do this, okay? Then give yourself at least 4 days to be in the gym for at least 45 minutes. I suggest weightlifting for all these days, but again, different circumstances, different goals can occur, and it depends on what you're trying to do with your body. But for most of you, you're trying to build muscle and lose fat, so I definitely suggest doing 4 days, at least 45 minutes at the gym doing weightlifting so you can build that muscle, okay? It's okay for your schedule to adjust, but you do want a baseline. Kind of going back to what I said up here, testing the different times and suggesting going around the same time every day. You want to be able to go at the same time every day, but your schedule's not always going to allow that. For example, as an entrepreneur, there's different tasks that I have to attend to. There's, different tasks are going to take me longer than I think they're going to take. And I have a general schedule, but it does adjust. And knowing that it's going to adjust and adjusting to it, it's a skill, okay? And you're not always going to feel, once it adjusts, you're not in that flow state, you're not in the momentum, and it's harder to go to the gym in that state. I want you guys to realize that because I fucked this up at the beginning. My schedule would adjust, especially when I was doing student painters, when my schedule was all over the place. I felt like shit on those days that it adjusted because my mind wasn't in the mental flow state, okay? You want a baseline, but if it adjusts, it's okay. It's okay, all right? It's not the end of the world. And like I'm going to say down here, you'll see it down here, consistency over timing, but timing helps create consistency. But we'll get to that. All right. So kind of to summarize it, early gym, it's going to give you a mental win. It's going to give you an energy boost. And it's good for discipline because it starts your day off with a win. You got to win right away. Okay. Midday gym, it's a good energy reset. If you have, in my case, again, you look at my scenario, I peak in the morning, so I get a good 5-6 hours of work in. The gym is kind of an energy reset for me, but it's also I can also get pretty good performance because I have meals in me, and it's a momentum builder for the afternoon block. Okay. And then late gym, it's a strength focus, time flexibility based on what you have from the morning until about 5-6 p.m. But don't go too late because it'll ruin your sleep, especially if you take caffeine before you lift. I have a problem with this. If I go to the gym at 6 p.m. and, I drank pre-workout before that, I'm not going to bed till 3 a.m. And I have accepted that. Sometimes I do it anyway because I love it so much. Hit it with my boy Jiggy and we get after it. But sometimes you got to accept that, and it's what I love to do, so it's okay. But know that if you're going too late, it'll ruin your sleep if you're taking caffeine before. But momentum compounds. And you guys are probably tired of me hearing this, but I don't care because momentum is everything and it is involved in everything, okay? If you're going every single day at the same time, you know your goal, and you give yourself 2 hours of time to prep on Sundays for the meal plan, you get your sleep in, you are hyped to go every single day, you're working towards it, you're doing progressive overload, you're doing all the things, it's going to compound and you're going to get the body that you want. But you have to understand these principles so that if you go to the gym at 6 a.m. on Monday and you want to try and stick to that, but Monday sucks because your mind isn't used to it, you can't quit. You have to build momentum by going 6 a.m. on Tuesday, 6 a.m. on Wednesday, 6 a.m. on Thursday. And the same applies for building the habit at any other time. Okay, so again, I'm going to use the example of working a 9 to 5. If you work a 9 to 5 and you want to start going to the gym at 6 p.m., and you try and go 6 p.m. on Monday, but it sucks because you're not used to it, that is okay. Go Tuesday at 6 p.m., go Wednesday at 6 p.m., Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That momentum is going to compound. You're going to build a habit out of it, and you're going to start to enjoy it, and you're going to start to get the body that you want. But you need to put the time in, and the momentum will compound, okay? Like I said before, consistency over timing, but timing helps create consistency, like I said, kind of with the momentum. So it's more important. You'd rather go, 8 a.m. on one day and 6 p.m. on the next day than 8 a.m. on one day and not go at all the next day. But creating a consistent schedule that you can somewhat, keep to a halt, that's going to be your best bet in the long run. Like I know for the next however long until I'm out of this period of my business, I'm going to be going from anywhere from 1 to 4 p.m. Okay, that's going to be my time. All right? And then last thing, if you want help figuring out your quantitative goal, your systems, the best time for you, optimizing food for growth, etc., let me know. Figuring out your quantitative goal and your systems to hit that goal, it's a difficult thing. If you are, say you're 220 pounds, you're trying to get your summer body, and say that's at 200 pounds, and we're 3 months away from summer, how can you lose 20 pounds in 3 months? Okay, that would be your goal. If your goal is 200 pounds, you're at 220, you need to lose 20 pounds in 3 months. Okay, I need to lose 7 pounds a month. What are the exact systems that I need to get there? Let me know if you want help with that. Figuring out the best time for you, like we just talked about. Optimizing food for growth, that's also important. Figuring out when to kind of manipulate your carbs to give you the most energy when you're lifting. Manipulate your carbs or manipulate your foods for the best sleep, etc., all that good stuff. But listen, I am taking a couple more spots in my coaching program for the next couple months. If you guys are looking to, just upgrade your life, upgrade your personal development, upgrade your mindset, your diet, your habits, your dream physique, that is what I'm here for. I'm going to put my Calendly link below. Book a call with me to see if you qualify for the program. We'll get after it. We'll get on a call and see if, worst case, I point you in the right direction and we go from there. But I hope you guys got some value from this video. I'm going to start making more, value-based videos where you guys kind of know more of the intricate, sciences behind the gym and stuff like that. I want to keep up the car talks. Those are my favorite. And, for the people that are really trying to upgrade their life, those are their favorites as well, because there's a whole lot of value in those, and it's just speaking from the heart and what I've been through in my experiences. But I'm going to get out more of those, get more gym sessions out. I'm going to start doing more stuff in my actual systems and how I've built the body that I have now, the mind that I have now, habits, diets, all that good stuff. But like I said, you got any value, drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace, boys.